Revealed, how a doctor's hidden love for his accident patient led to an incredible transformation. Dr. James Harper stood on the threshold of his family clinic, the air heavy with the scent of antiseptic and the insistent beeping of machines. He had poured his heart into healing this struggling community of Grantville, a place defined by its hardships and resilient spirits. But tonight, he would be tested like never before. The news had spread like wildfire. Emily Thompson, the town's bright star, lay in a hospital bed, fighting for her life after a tragic accident. The 17-year-old was not just any patient, she was the pride of Grantville, a gifted track star with dreams of running at the collegiate level. Her mother, a hard-working single parent, had sacrificed everything to support Emily. As Dr. Harper entered the ICU, he felt that beating heart in his chest, a mixture of compassion and a nagging worry that he had neglected his own family. Holding Emily's hand, Dr. Harper looked deep into her eyes, urging her to pull through. "You're strong," he whispered. "You can beat this." As he spoke, he felt an unexpected swell of affection for this girl, vulnerable yet fierce, fighting to reclaim her future. Weeks passed, filled with grueling therapy sessions that tested both their limits. Day by day, as she struggled to regain strength, their bond grew, fueled by shared laughter and emotional support. But whispers soon turned into a roar. Emily's family, always on the edge economically, now faced scrutiny from their neighbors. Rumors about her mother's choices began to ripple through Grantville like waves crashing against a fragile shore, unearthing hidden prejudices that stained their united front. Instead of the town holding together, fractures surfaced. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One evening, at a community meeting, the spirit quickly shifted from concern to outrage. An old man stood up, his voice trembling. "Why is a doctor wasting his time on a girl like her? We're better off without the likes of that." The air crackled with discontent, the collective anxiety of a community gripping their thoughts like a vice. Dr. Harper felt the accusation sink deep, a wound that cut through his already burdened heart. He had fought for those without voices, but now he was left to defend his own integrity in a crowded room where fear overpowered reason. He found himself standing before them, trembling yet resolute. "Emily is not a burden, she is our future. Since when has compassion been a liability?" His voice echoed in the hearts of the townsfolk, yet the prejudice ran deep. Emily, the girl he'd come to care for, was caught in a storm that twisted hope into despair. In that moment, Dr. Harper realized they would both need to rise up against this tide of ignorance, not just for each other, but for the future of Grantville itself. As he looked out into the tense crowd, a curious thought crossed his mind: could love truly conquer the obstacles built by social expectations and economic hardship? The answer felt as distant as Emily's dreams of running free once more. But he knew he had to find it. Dr. Harper left the meeting with a heavy heart. The weight of derogatory comments was suffocating. Outside, the moon hung high above Grantville, glimmering like a watchful eye over the town. He leaned against his car, hands gripping the steering wheel, mind racing with thoughts of Emily and the battle they faced. What more could he do to show that she was worth fighting for? The next morning, determination coursed through him like adrenaline. He walked into the clinic with renewed purpose. Emily would need to know that she was not alone. That morning, he spent extra time with her, recounting stories of her track accomplishments, the sparkle in her eye lighting up the dim hospital room. "You know," he began, a smile creeping onto his face, "the way you sprinted past everyone at the last meet? Pure magic. You were unstoppable." A hint of color returned to Emily's cheeks, the fight in her spirit rekindling. "I just need to get back out there," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But there was an emboldened fire in those words. Dr. Harper realized it was moments like these that reminded him why he was dedicated to his profession. Days turned into weeks, yet the shadows of judgment did not lift. Community members continued to whisper behind closed doors, and skepticism clung to the air. Whispers morphed into letters, anonymous notes slid under his clinic's door, carrying mean remarks that made his stomach churn. Why waste resources on her? One read coldly. Dr. Harper's heart tightened. He defaced criticism before, but this felt personal, an attack on both Emily and the values he stood for. Yet he could feel Emily's resolve growing. In their therapy sessions, every small victory she achieved, raising her leg, pushing against resistance, turning her toes, became a testament to her unyielding spirit. One afternoon, as the sun was setting, he entered her room with an idea. "Emily, how about we do something bold? Let us host a small community event. A fundraiser to support your recovery, and maybe highlight what you mean to Grantville." Her eyes lit up. "Really? You think they'd come?" "I think they need to see you," he replied with a nod, feeling the pulse of hope in the air. Together, they planned it all. The event would showcase her journey, share her story, and perhaps open the eyes of the very people who doubted her worth. As the event approached, anticipation mixed with anxiety fluttered in Dr. Harper's chest. What if the community still turned their back? The night of the event arrived. The gym was decorated, the smell of homemade cookies filled the air, and the warmth of candles flickered around the room. But even as townsfolk gathered, Dr. Harper noticed the tension. Hesitant faces filled with doubt cast shadows over the decorations. Emily took the mic, her voice shaky yet powerful. "I'm not just a girl who had an accident. I am a runner. I dream of going to college, of inspiring others, and this is just a small bump in my journey." Gasps echoed through the crowd, and as her words sank in, hearts began to soften. But just as hope ignited, a voice called out, shaking the atmosphere. "You think we should support her, just like that? What has she done for us?" Dr. Harper felt the challenge sting, but he stepped forward, resolve hardening. "She deserves our empathy and support more than anybody. We must choose kindness over judgment. Let us not crush the dreams of our future." As murmurs of agreement rose and fell, Dr. Harper's eyes met Emily's. They both knew this night could change everything. But would the town rally behind them or push back harder than ever? In the silence that followed, a mix of tension and unbridled hope hung in the air, and Dr. Harper knew they stood on a precipice. Would they find the strength to soar together, or would the weight of prejudice pull them back down? The answer waited just beyond the next heartbeat. The room held its breath after the challenge, a stunned silence enveloping the crowd. Dr. Harper's voice hung in the air, firm yet hopeful, piercing through the doubts that threatened to re-establish themselves. Emily looked out at the sea of faces before her, uncertainty swirling in her chest. But no, she wouldn't let it consume her. This was her moment. "I know it's hard to see past the accident," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "But I've always believed in fighting through the tough times. Isn't that what we do, as a community? We stand up for each other." A few heads nodded, eyes softening, but the voice of dissent still lingered. "And how many of us have fought our own battles?" came the retort, piercing through the newly budding optimism. Dr. Harper's heart sank as he sensed the growing division once more. Emily took a deep breath. "That's true. We've all faced challenges. But I promise I'm not here to take from anyone. I just want a chance to show that I can be more than my accident. We can all do that. We can all rise together." The flickering lights of the candles seemed to draw closer, illuminating the faces around her. The spectators exchanged glances, some reluctant, others searching for common ground in her words. Dr. Harper stepped back a fraction, letting Emily take the lead. He could feel the tide shifting, just slightly, yet he wanted to hold on to that feeling for as long as possible. "Let us be real here," he began again, his steadiness creeping back. "Emily's journey is about more than just her recovery. It's about resilience. It's about understanding what it means to be human in a world that can sometimes be unforgiving. A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd, emboldening tired hearts. Yet deep down, he sensed some walls were still standing tall. It was over yet that a woman from the back spoke up. If she is so courageous, then why not share her story? Why not let us see her fight? Maybe we need that inspiration too. Dr. Harper felt a spark of hope. Yes, that was exactly what they needed. He caught Emily's gaze, and the determination mirrored in her eyes fueled his passion even more. "Thank you," Emily said, her voice clearer, gaining strength. "Let me run for all of us. Let me show you what it means to overcome." As she spoke, some members of the crowd shifted, leaning in, intrigued by the sincerity in her tone. Dr. Harper searched for signs of connection in the faces before him. There was a flicker of understanding beginning to illuminate the skeptics, a path opening through the dense fog of doubt. Just then, a familiar voice cut through, filled with disbelief. "So you want us to rally behind a dream?" It was Greg, a local builder, known for his ironclad opinions. "What if she disappoints us? What if she fails?" The question hung thickly, prompting murmurs of unease. Dr. Harper took another step forward. "What if she flies instead?" Emily seized the moment, her spirit unyielding. "We won't know unless we try. I might stumble. I might need help. But isn't that what being part of a community means? Supporting one another, no matter the outcome." The tension in the room was palpable, a deep breath shared among strangers. In that moment, hope clung desperately to the air, battling against lingering doubt. Dr. Harper could feel the shift. It was small but undeniable. People were starting to open up, just a bit. But then a sudden sound echoed the unmistakable creak of a chair behind him. A man stood up, eyes narrowed, a contemplation flickering through his expression. The crowd turned, room straining for his next words. Would he support them or swing the pendulum back toward judgment? Dr. Harper felt his heart race. What would he say? What would he reveal? The room waited, breathless, and he knew this was the defining moment they had been waiting for. The truth hung in the balance, poised to either uplift or shatter the fragile unity they were beginning to build. Would it be a new beginning, or the end of hope? The man took a moment, almost like he was weighing the words on his tongue. The flickering candlelight danced over his face, revealing a mix of curiosity and skepticism. As silence cocooned them, it felt like the world outside had blurred away, leaving just this small gathering. "Look, I know suffering," he began, his voice low but resonant, like a drumbeat that pulled everyone closer. "I've seen it every day on the worksite. I've watched my own brother fight a losing battle with addiction. He fell hard. But I've also seen what happens when you believe in something, even against the odds. It saves lives, and sometimes it breaks them." Dr. Harper could sense the crowd tensing, waiting. Would this man tear them down, or build them up? Emily's heart raced. She willed herself to stay calm. She needed to hear what he had to say. The man scratched his head, the vulnerability in him emerging like an unspoken plea. "So, I'm curious. If we rally behind you, where does that energy go? Will it bring change? Will it matter?" Each question hit the room like a wave, and Emily felt her shoulders straighten. She opened her mouth, ready to respond, but found the strength in her voice faltering. Dr. Harper stepped in. "It matters, because this isn't just about Emily. It's about each one of us. It's about the community redefining what it means to support one another. When one of us rises, we all rise with her." The man paused, weighing the doctor's words. "I want to believe you, but trust is hard. It's easier not to care. Easier to look away. Then let us make it harder to look away." Emily exclaimed, stepping forward, her voice igniting with passion. "If I'm not enough, let my journey spark something, let it rip through the dark and expose the light. You don't have to suffer alone. We all have something to offer." The tension cracked like a thin sheet of ice. A few people in the audience shifted uneasily, but others nodded, slowly at first, then with more enthusiasm. There was a glimmer of possibility, a shared vision beginning to unfurl in the collective breath of the group. "Great," Greg chimed in again, now with a faint grin. "We're buying tickets to a show we haven't even seen the trailer for." Emily smiled, a wave of relief washing over her. "Who says you have to wait for a trailer?" She shot back, the fire in her eyes almost palpable. "Let us create the movie right here, right now. Together. We have more power than we realize. Let us turn our stories into strength." A murmur surged through the room, a ripple of wonder and excitement dancing in the air. It was a breath of fresh air, like opening the windows on a bright spring morning. Then, from the back, a voice rose, clearer and sharper than the rest. "You're speaking about hope. But what happens when disappointment hits? When another accident transforms everything once again?" Emily's heart clenched. The question sent shivers down her back, the fear of failure hung like a dark cloud. Yet even more voices chimed in, each sharper and more skeptical than the last. "What if it's all for nothing? What if you can't handle the pressure?" Dr. Harper could see the tide starting to shift, doubt seeping back in. He felt the warmth of hope flickering, threatened by the cold grip of fear. "It's what we do when we fall that counts," he shouted, urgency steeping from his voice. "It's about how we rise and how we support one another through each fall. Will we accept that challenge?" Emily breathed deep, bracing herself. The crowd was restless, thoughts racing behind furrowed brows. It felt like teetering on the edge of a cliff, unsteady yet alive with possibilities. The man from earlier stood silent, weighing his thoughts yet again. Inside of him, walls began to crack. The room waited, breath suspended in the air, every gaze locked on him. And then he took a step, a small movement that sent tremors of expectation rippling through the audience. Would he stand with them, or let doubt snuff out the flame of hope? The choice was looming, and Emily could feel her heart pounding, an echo of nervous hope. What would he decide? Would they rise together, or fall apart? The man shifted his weight, his brow furrowing deeper as he took in the faces around him. The hope in their eyes was palpable, but so was their fear. He clenched his fists, wrestling with his thoughts. Finally, he turned to Emily. "What if you fall again?" His voice cracked on the last word, revealing the tension beneath his tough exterior. I can't promise it won't hurt," she admitted, her own heart racing. "But we can promise to lean on each other when it does. That's what this is about, building a safety net from our shared stories." He stared at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. A glimmer of acceptance shone through the shadows of doubt. Maybe that's enough to start. But we need to have each other's backs. No more looking away when someone's struggling. Dr. Harper smiled softly, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. The tension began to feel like a thread being woven. "And that's exactly what we want to do. It's about reaching out, supporting one another. It's about knowing that every struggle faced alone becomes a battle won together." Emily couldn't help but mirror his enthusiasm. "Together, we could create something beautiful. What if we shared our stories? What if we held workshops, or support groups? What if we turned this energy into something real? For our community." A ripple of chatter spread through the crowd, veering toward excitement. Ideas began to bounce around like children playing tag. "What if we host a community event?" Someone called out. "A night of stories? Or a fundraiser? To support those in need?" Another added, their voice rising above the rest. As the ideas spilled over the edge of their initial doubts, the man's eyes sparkled with understanding. His fear began to evaporate, replaced by an emboldened spirit. He raised his voice, interjecting with surprising energy, "Let us make sure it's not just talk. Let these stories build bridges, not walls." The crowd erupted now, a united front. It was there, In that flowering buzz of conversations, that something transformed within them all. They were exchanging hope like currency. Emily looked around, feeling the heat of possibility wrapping around her like a warm blanket. The idea of a community event took shape in her mind, the dread from minutes earlier now shifting to wild excitement, and then, in the midst of the fervor, Dr. Harper caught Emily's eye. There was a mix of pride and caution in his gaze. Was he worried they were moving too fast? She wasn't sure, but she could also see the flicker of belief there, like the flame of a candle refusing to be snuffed out. "Let us gather ideas," someone called out, "and come together next week to plan." "Count me in." Emily shouted, every ounce of her spirit igniting with determination. The man who had first challenged her now leaned in, smiling like he was finally seeing the horizon after being lost in AFOG.as. They started exchanging phone numbers and emails in excitement. Emily's heart swelled with pride. They were taking the first steps towards something greater, a chance to genuinely impact each other's lives. But as the crowd began to disperse, Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This was just the beginning, and there was still so much uncertainty ahead. What if their plans fell flat? What if something unexpected tore through their newfound unity once again? She paused, letting her hands fall to her sides, suddenly unsure of where to go next. It was exhilarating but terrifying all the same. In the back of her mind, the shadows of doubt whispered again, and she felt the heavy weight of her journey ahead. Would they stick together through the storms that lay ahead? For just a moment, the joyous chatter faded into the background, and the question loomed larger than life: could they truly create a safe harbor in the unpredictable seas of life? The night held its breath, every heart hanging on the cusp of transformation. Emily walked away from the gathering, her heart racing with equal parts excitement and apprehension. The conversations echoed in her ears, each enthusiastic idea sparking joy, yet the anxiety nagged at her like an unwelcome guest. She felt the warm comfort of connection and support, but it was layered over with dread fear of falling short, of disappointing everyone who had caught a glimmer of hope in her vision. As she made her way home, she replayed faces in her mind. The woman who spoke about her son struggling in school, the elderly man who had lost his wife and was seeking solace in shared stories. Each of them carried their own burdens, and for the first time in a long while, they were prepared to unravel them together. It was breathtaking, but could they sustain this momentum? Would it last through the week? Arriving home, the silence enveloped her like a thick blanket. She dropped her bag by the door and let herself fall onto the couch, staring up at the ceiling. She wanted to believe in the potential they had sparked, yet doubt crept in. What if the excitement faded? What if next week brought only crickets and empty chairs? Her phone buzzed, breaking her thoughts. It was a message from Dr. Harper. Tonight was powerful. Let us keep the energy flowing. I believe in this, Emily. A small smile formed on her face. His trust gave her a boost, but she still hesitated. She typed back impulsively. Thank you. I hope we can make it happen. Before she could second-guess herself, she hit send, a little piece of determination bubbling inside her. In the following days, she couldn't shake the restless feeling in her stomach. Every time her phone pinged with a new message from interested participants, it filled her with joy, but also an underlying anxiety. Could they really pull this off? She gathered her courage and started compiling ideas into a brainstorming document, and soon the screen filled with colorful suggestions, each one more exciting than the last. However, as the days passed, the balance of hope and apprehension tipped the other way. One night, she received a text from the man who had initially challenged her. I can't make it next week. Something came up. Her heart sank. Was this a sign? The reality of their undertaking began to feel heavier. Each maybe and I'll try felt like a thread unraveling. What if the struggles they were so eager to confront were far larger than they could handle? Questions clouded her mind, and the excitement from earlier dimmed. Amidst the internal storms, Emily remembered how she had felt when speaking to Dr. Harper and the group. They had built something fragile but beautiful in that moment. She thought of the warmth of connection, of shared stories, and the determination etched into the faces surrounding her. That spark was still there, she reasoned. She just needed to reignite it. The day before their scheduled gathering, she took a deep breath and decided to reach out. She began crafting a message to the group, reminding them of the power in sharing, in simply being there for one another. As she typed, she felt a flicker of warmth returning to her chest. She poured her heart into those words, urging them all to remember why they wanted to connect in the first place, but as she pressed send, a sudden knock at her door jolted her back to reality. Confusion replaced her momentary relief. Who could be visiting now? As she opened the door, her heart raced. Standing before her was Dr. Harper, his expression serious but soft, punctuated by an undeniable concern. "Emily, can we talk?" The air shifted, and she felt the weight of unspoken truths hang thick between them. What did he want to discuss? Would this be a pivotal moment, or a potential unraveling of everything they were building? Dr. Harper stepped inside, closing the door behind him with careful deliberation. The light in the living room cast long shadows, adding to the tension in the air. Emily could feel the nervous thrum in her chest. Words hung unspoken, and the weight of his gaze was heavy with meaning. "What's on your mind?" she asked, forcing a calmness into her voice that she didn't fully feel. He hesitated, searching her eyes for a moment before speaking. "I'm worried about the group. It's not just about the ideas, it's about the people." Emily nodded, her pulse quickening. "I understand, but they need this," she said, a hint of desperation creeping in. "We all do." He sighed, pacing slightly as he rubbed the back of his neck. "I've seen support groups come together, only to fall apart when reality sets in. It tends to get messy. People can be fragile, Emily. I don't want to see you hurt." His concern wrapped around her like a tight band, but it also sparked something deeper. "I can handle it, Dr. Harper," she said, striving for confidence. "These people share their pain not just to talk but to heal. If we can make them feel safe, it matters. It could change everything." A flicker of something softened his expression, a fleeting smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You're incredibly driven. And there is something about your energy that draws them in. But what happens when the inevitable setbacks come?" Emily crossed her arms, feeling a mixture of frustration and vulnerability. "You're saying they're going to fail before they even begin?" He looked away, the moment stretching as they searched through the possibility of what this gathering could mean for each of them. Finally, he turned back, his voice quiet and earnest. "I want to believe in this just as much as you do. But let's be real, some people might not be ready to open up like you hope they will. And that hurts." The truth of his words stung, yet Emily couldn't allow fear to turn them back now. "We have to try," she insisted, her voice firm. "Even if it feels scary. That's why people are hesitant. But we can build a bridge for them to walk across." He took a step closer, his gaze intense. "I've seen too many bridges collapse, Emily. I can't let you walk on one that's unstable." Emily's heart thudded hard, his protective concern igniting something different within her. "You care so much. But if we don't at least attempt this, how will they ever know they weren't ready? Or that they might be?" Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the world outside faded into the background. Emily could feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a connection deepening between them as they shared this space of vulnerability. "You think this can work?" he asked, the tightness in his voice softening, hope creeping into the edges of his expression. "I believe it can," she replied, her own conviction surprising even her. The more she said it, the more it felt real. "But I can't do this alone. I need you, Dr. Harper. I need all of you. We need to be there for each other." There was a beat of silence where the weight of their words hung heavily in the air. Finally, he nodded slowly, uncertainty still flickering in his eyes but determination from her spark warming him as well. "Okay then. Let's give it a go," he said, a small grin breaking through. Emily felt the release of a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "You won't regret it," she promised. As they stood there, her phone buzzed on the table, interrupting the moment. The screen lit up with a message from one of the participants. Something about needing help preparing their story. Dr. Harper raised an eyebrow, a knowing smile crossing his face. Maybe that's the first step, huh? Looks like it, she said, feeling a renewed energy. I guess we're in this together now. But just as she turned to respond to the message, a voice interrupted from outside, loud and filled with distress. Help! Somebody, please! They exchanged glances, uncertainty returning with a sudden rush. What was happening outside? Emily's heart raced again, and the moment felt electric. Could this be the unforeseen challenge that would test everything they were hoping to build? Emily rushed to the window, heart pounding in her chest. The street outside was dimly lit, but a small group of people had gathered at the curb. She squinted, trying to discern what was happening. An older man was hunched over, hands on his knees, breathless and clearly in distress. Dr. Harper, I think they need help, she said, already moving toward the door. He followed swiftly, the urgency of the situation evident in his every step. Wait! He exclaimed, reaching for her arm as she swung the door open. We need to know what is going on before we jump in. Emily turned back, frustration flickering in her eyes. People are in trouble, we can't just stand here and do nothing. With a quick nod, they stepped into the crisp evening air, the sounds of the city a distant hum compared to the panic rising in the crowd. Call 911. Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the murmur of the gathering bystanders. She pushed her way through, feeling Dr. Harper close at her side. They reached the man at the center, his face flushed and panicked. Sir, what happened? Emily asked, kneeling beside him. She kept her tone soothing, hoping to calm him down. I was driving and then I saw this kid running across the street, he gasped, looking up at her, eyes wide with fear. I swerved, and I hit the edge of the curb. My heart it's racing. I thought I was having a heart attack. Dr. Harper knelt next to her, his medical instincts taking over. Hey, let's take some deep breaths together. Just focus on me, he instructed, his voice steady. Can you tell me your name? Henry, the man panted, clutching his chest. I didn't mean to Henry, you're okay, Emily reassured him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Just breathe. You're safe now. Dr. Harper is a doctor, he'll help you. The crowd began to murmur, some people drawing closer, while others hesitated, uncertainty flickering on their faces. Does anyone have a phone? A woman behind them called, urgency lacing her tone. We really need to call for help right away. Emily caught Dr. Harper's eye, and for a fleeting moment, a silent understanding passed between them. This was the kind of real-life crisis they had been preparing for, the kind of pressure that could easily break the fragile foundation they were trying to build. Henry, Dr. Harper continued, his voice gentle, I need you to try to relax. I'm going to check your heart rate and get some vital signs. While he spoke, Emily remained close, feeling the tremors of fear coursing through Henry. The solemnity of the moment settled over her, reminding her of the very real pain people carried. It brought a stark clarity. Here was raw vulnerability, the kind of fragility she had hoped to help. As Dr. Harper quickly assessed the situation, Emily felt the weight of their mission press upon her. If they were to lead this group, they had to embody the change, embody the healing they sought to create. But what if they weren't enough? What if in moments like these, they failed to provide the care people needed? Just then, the sirens of an ambulance wailed nearby, cutting through the chaos. Relief washed over the gathering, but the shadows of uncertainty lingered. Stay with us, Henry, Dr. Harper instructed, keeping his focus sharp even as the surrounding noise began to swell both outside and within Emily's mind. The crowd began to part, allowing the paramedics to move in. Emily looked at Dr. Harper, their eyes intertwining with shared determination. They were in this for a reason, the reasons had never been clearer. But as the medic prepared to take over, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. "Are we ready for what's next?" she whispered to herself. But in the depths of her heart, one question gnawed at the edge of her mind. What hidden truths lay beneath the surface of their own fears? The unsettling hum of the crowd faded into the background as the paramedics took over, their movements swift and authoritative. Emily felt a pang of helplessness wash over her. She wanted to do more, to push in and take control, but the professionalism of the medics had that part under wraps now. Still, she didn't want to retreat completely. "Can you give us space, please?" one of the paramedics requested, his voice sharp enough to cut through the gathering noise. Reluctantly, Emily backed away, but she remained close, watching as Dr. Harper seamlessly transitioned into answering every question thrown at him. The cool efficiency of his demeanor reassured her, but that same question lingered: what if they weren't enough? With the crisis seemingly under control, her mind shifted from fear to an acute sense of purpose. "Hey, we should probably check on the kid the driver mentioned," she said, glancing at Dr. Harper as he spoke to the paramedic. "What kid?" He looked puzzled for a moment, then realization dawned. "Right, the one who crossed the street. We need to find out if he's all right." They pushed their way through the crowd, scanning for signs of a frightened child. Just as Emily's heart began to sink, she spotted a small figure by a parked car a little farther down the street. "Over there!" she exclaimed, pointing. A young boy sat on the curb, legs pulled tightly against his chest. His face was streaked with tears, but he wasn't injured. Relief flooded her, but her heart ached at his distress. She knelt down, placing herself at his eye level. "Hey there," she said gently. "What's your name?" "Jake," he whispered, eyes welling up again. "I didn't mean to run. I'm sorry." "It's okay, Jake." She could feel his fear and guilt radiating off him like heat. "You didn't do anything wrong. I promise." "Can you tell me what happened?" The little boy sucked in a deep breath, his small voice trembling. "I was chasing my dog. He ran out in front of the cars, and I thought he'd get hurt, so I just ran after him." Emily felt a mix of gratitude and sorrow. A child's innocent impulse had turned into a panic-inducing situation for everyone involved. She glanced over at Dr. Harper, who had joined them, and saw the same understanding reflected in his eyes. "Jake, I want you to meet somebody," she said softly, nodding toward Dr. Harper. "This is Dr. Harper. He's a really good doctor. If you want, he can check to make sure you're okay." Jake looked at Dr. Harper, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Will it hurt?" "No, just a quick checkup," Dr. Harper assured him with a reassuring smile. "How about I make it a competition? Whoever can hold their breath the longest wins." Jake's eyes brightened a little, the tension easing off his shoulders. Dr. Harper knelt beside him, and with the flick of an unseen switch, laughter began to bubble up from within the worried boy. Both adults exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement that they were doing something worthwhile here, piecing hope back into their community, one child at a time. But as the two engaged with Jake, a thought cut deeper into Emily's mind. Was this kind of connection deep enough to hold against the swelling tides of fear she felt? Were they truly equipped to handle this spiraling situation? Just as she opened her mouth to voice her concern, a sudden scream broke through the air, a scream that sent shivers down her spine. No. It was a woman's voice, wild with fear. Emily turned, heart racing again. What had happened now? What lay ahead, beyond this moment? Emily's heart pounded as she turned to look in the direction of the scream. The crowd, drawn collectively by the sound, surged like a tidal wave, uncertainty rippling through the cluster of onlookers. A knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. "Stay here, Jake," Dr. Harper instructed, his voice thick with authority, and he moved toward the source of the commotion while Emily hesitated for just a heartbeat. The woman was now at the edge of the street, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands grasping at her hair. "My son! Where is he?" she cried, her voice cracking with desperation. Emily's heart twisted in sympathy, the fear in that voice was haunting. "Mom! I'm over here." A boy's voice piped up from the other end of the street, running toward them, a look of panic etched all over his face. Relief washed over the crowd like a summer rain as the woman's frantic energy waned into pure maternal instinct. Dr. Harper took charge, rushing to meet the boy, ensuring he was unharmed. Emily, feeling the urgency of the moment, moved to the woman, whose knees had buckled, and wrapped her arms around her in a comforting embrace. "It's okay, he's fine," Emily whispered, hoping to bring some solace to the distraught mother. "He's right there. He came back to you." The woman clung to Emily, sobs shaking her frame. "You don't understand. I was so scared." "I know," Emily replied, squeezing her tighter. "But everyone is okay. You can breathe now." Once the boy reached his mother, the reunion was electric with emotion. The weight of the encounter felt like a tidal wave crashing against the shore, a reminder of life's fragility amidst its beauty. Emily stepped back, allowing them to be together, but her own heart was pounding with something else. "Emily," Dr. Harper called, catching her attention. There was a newfound lightness in his eyes that she had never seen before. "You just did something incredible." She lifted her chin defiantly, the clarity of their moment striking deep within. "It feels different now, doesn't it?" "Yes," he affirmed, nodding slowly, the recognition feeding the flicker of hope inside their community. As the mother and son embraced, everyone rallied, molecules of connection and support swirling through the crowd. Each grateful face spoke volumes, a symphony of emotional transformation playing in concert. Beneath the gathering of people around them, a ripple started to cascade through the mob, moments of unspoken understanding passing from person to person. They felt it, an unmistakable shift from apprehension to compassion, from fear to strength. Then, as if above them, the moon broke free from behind clouds, shining its ethereal light like a spotlight over the scene. Emily glanced around and saw familiar faces, the skeptics, the supporters, each one beginning to acknowledge the humanity in one another. "Maybe we can start with a simple story," she said aloud to the crowd, feeling a surge of warmth at the possibility they held together. "We all have fears, but what if we share them? Break down the walls of isolation." Hands began to rise, voices ignited, allowing the initial doubts to dissolve into something stronger, connection. Emotions swelled, and together they shared whispers of pain, healing, and determination to rise. Emily felt a tidal wave of energy surge through her. Hope had a pulse, and it beat in sync with every heart in Grantville. Dr. Harper moved beside her, pride illuminating his face. "You opened their hearts," he said, and he meant every word. "You saw through their fears and showed them a path." Together, Emily emphasized, a glow flooding her being. "We'll lift each other up. We may stumble, but we will rise." Cheers erupted, an avalanche of affirmation echoing through the night, the sounds wrapping around the community like a warm embrace. Then, for a moment, time stood still. Faces brightened, spirits ignited, and hope crystallized. Each story shared wove them into a united tapestry. Amid the laughter, the tears, and the newfound strength ignited in her heart was the compassion of hundreds coming alive. "Can you feel it, Emily?" asked Dr. Harper, her voice thick with emotion. "This was our moment." "Yes," he agreed, voice tender yet firm. "And it only gets better from here." Together, they stood at the helm of a journey that had just begun, a future promised in unity, hope, and the courage to face whatever storms lay ahead. The darkness was gone, but they had learned together they could embrace the light. As the moon illuminated the night, a profound realization settled over Grantville, binding them like a family. The community now recognized their shared strength, emerging renewed and resilient, transcending all odds and prejudices, ready to pave a brighter path, and Emily knew this was just the beginning. Feel the pulse of hope and jump into the transformation too. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread this powerful message. Comment your reactions and feelings about this stunning ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of pushing forward together.